Let me ask you a question that might change the way you think about your entire life. If I offered you $1 million in cash right now, today, or I offered you a single penny that doubles every day for 31 days, which would you take? Now, most people hear that question and their eyes light up at the $1 million. Cash money, right now. Security, problem solved. But here's what I've learned after all these years of studying success and human behavior. Most people make decisions based on what looks good today, not on what compounds into something extraordinary tomorrow. You know what happens to that penny? On day one, you've got 1 cent, pocket change, nothing. On day 5, you've got 16 cents. You can't even buy a cup of coffee. On day 10, you're sitting there with $5.12, and you're thinking, I should have taken the million. Your friends are laughing at you. Your family thinks you're crazy. But here's where it gets interesting. On day 20, you've got $5,248. Now you're paying attention. On day 25, you've got $167,000. And on day 31, that single penny has become $10,737,418.24. More than 10 times what you would have had if you'd grabbed the million. That's not a math trick. That's life showing you how it really works. The problem is, we don't live in a world where we can see our penny doubling every single day. We live in a world where we plant seeds and nothing happens for weeks. We make good choices and wake up the next morning exactly the same. We eat a salad instead of a hamburger and check the mirror, still the same person. So we quit, we give up. We go back to our old ways because we can't see the compound effect working its magic beneath the surface. Here's the truth that most people never grasp. Success isn't this giant leap you make one day when lightning strikes and everything changes. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. But here's the other side of that coin. And this is what keeps me up at night, thinking about people who never reach their potential failure is also a few errors in judgment repeated every day. You see, it's the same process working in both directions. Let me tell you about the cola and the apple. If I'm standing here and I'm choosing between drinking a cola and eating an apple, what happens if I choose the cola? Nothing. Absolutely nothing happens. I don't gain 5 pounds on the spot. My teeth don't fall out. My health doesn't collapse. In fact, the cola might taste pretty good and I walk away feeling fine, thinking, see, no big deal. But what if I make that same choice tomorrow? Still nothing? Next week? You can't tell the difference. 6 months later, now we're starting to see something. 5 years later, now we've got a health problem. Now we're dealing with consequences. And here's what people say, how did this happen? I don't understand how I got here. But you know what? The same thing happens with the apple. If I eat the apple today instead of drinking the cola, what happens? Nothing. I don't lose 5 pounds. I don't suddenly have perfect health. I don't wake up looking like an athlete. The choice seems so insignificant that most people think it doesn't matter. But eat that apple tomorrow and the next day, and 6 months from now, something's different. 5 years from now, you're a different person entirely. The challenge is that both choices are easy. It's easy to drink the cola, and it's easy to eat the apple. It's easy to go for a 30-minute walk, and it's easy not to. It's easy to read 10 pages of a good book, and it's easy to sit in front of the television instead. It's easy to put $10 in a savings account, and it's easy to spend it. The choices themselves aren't hard. What's hard is seeing into the future far enough to understand what these small choices are building. I met a young man once, 23 years old, working a regular job, nothing special about his circumstances. But he made a decision that changed everything. He decided to read for 30 minutes every single day. Now, 30 minutes doesn't sound like much, does it? You can waste 30 minutes scrolling through your phone and not even realize it's gone. But this young man was disciplined. Every single evening, no matter what, he read personal development books, biographies of successful people, books about business, about philosophy, about skills he wanted to develop. At first, nothing happened. He wasn't making more money. His job didn't change. His friends didn't treat him differently. But he kept reading. After 1 month, he'd finished 2 books. After 6 months, 12 books. His friends were out every night doing the same things they'd always done, and he was reading. They thought he was wasting his time. Live a little, they'd say. You're missing out. But he kept reading. After 2 years, that young man had read over 100 books, and something interesting started happening. He began to see opportunities that other people couldn't see. He started conversations differently. He solved problems in ways that impressed his bosses. 5 years later, he owned his own business, and his income had multiplied by a factor of 10. What happened? The reading didn't make him successful on day 1 or day 100, but the compound effect of that daily discipline, that tiny 30-minute investment, transformed who he was as a person. And when you transform who you are, you transform what you attract into your life. Here's what I want you to understand. There's an invisible transformation happening beneath the surface of every small discipline you practice. You can't see it happening day by day, just like you can't see a child growing taller if you're with them every single day. But step away for 6 months and come back, and the change is undeniable. The person who walks 30 minutes every single day doesn't see dramatic results after 1 week. But their body is changing, their mind is changing. Their discipline muscle is getting stronger. And 6 months later, a year later, 5 years later, they're a completely different person than the one who chose the couch. Most people quit right before the miracle happens. They start a new discipline with enthusiasm. They're fired up, they're committed. Week 1 is fantastic. Week 2, still going strong. Week 3, they're starting to wonder when the results will show up. Week 4, they're looking in the mirror, checking the bank account, stepping on the scale, and nothing seems different. Week 5, doubt creeps in. Week 6, they quit. And the tragedy is, they were right there, right on the edge of where the compound effect starts to become visible. They gave up on day 20 when day 31 was waiting for them just around the corner. Success isn't complicated. It truly isn't. Success is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. The morning routine, the daily reading, the regular saving, the consistent exercise, the small gestures of love and appreciation. These aren't dramatic actions. Nobody's going to applaud you for them. There's no immediate reward. But string them together day after day, week after week, month after month, and you're building something extraordinary. You're building a life that most people only dream about while they're waiting for their big break, their lucky moment, their chance at the $1 million sitting right there in front of them, not understanding that the penny would have made them richer beyond their wildest imagination. You know what's interesting about success? It doesn't care about your excuses. It doesn't care about where you came from, what happened to you, or how unfair life has been. Success has a simple formula, and either you follow it or you don't. And here's the part that makes people uncomfortable. The formula starts with you taking complete responsibility for where you are right now. Let me tell you a story about a man who came up to me after a seminar, and he said, "Mr. Rohn, I've been working hard for 20 years, and I'm still broke. The economy is terrible. My boss doesn't appreciate me. Taxes are too high. The government takes everything. I just can't seem to get ahead." And I looked at him and said, "Let me see your wallet." He seemed confused, but he pulled it out and handed it to me. I opened it up, looked inside, and said, "Well, there's your problem. Your wallet is just like mine. It's empty. And do you know why it's empty? Because money doesn't come to the wallet because we want it. Money comes to the wallet because of what we become." That hit him hard. You see, he'd spent 20 years blaming everything outside of himself, the economy, the government, his boss, his lack of education, his circumstances. But the truth is, if you took everything away from a truly successful person, stripped them down to nothing, put them in a different city where nobody knows them, within a few years they'd have it all back. Why? Because success isn't about what you have. Success is about what you've become. And what you become is determined by your daily disciplines. Here's what I've learned after decades of studying why some people succeed and others don't. Life is a 5-piece puzzle, and most people don't understand how the pieces fit together. The first piece is your philosophy, how you think about life, what you believe about yourself and the world. The second piece is your attitude, how you feel about circumstances and events. The third piece is your activity, what you actually do every day. The fourth piece is your results, what you get from those activities. And the fifth piece is your lifestyle, how you live based on those results. Now here's the key. Everything starts with philosophy. Your philosophy determines your attitude determines your activity determines your results, and your results determine your lifestyle. Most people are trying to change their lifestyle without changing their philosophy, and that's like trying to harvest where you didn't plant. It doesn't work that way. If a man is broke at age 50, and he says, I never had a chance. My father was broke, I grew up poor, I didn't go to college, the deck was stacked against me from the beginning. Well, that's his philosophy. And that philosophy creates an attitude of defeat. That attitude creates activity that's minimal, half-hearted, excuse-filled. That activity creates results that are predictable, not much. And those results create a lifestyle of struggle. Then he points to the lifestyle and says, see, I told you I never had a chance. But it didn't start with the lifestyle. It started with the philosophy. Let me tell you about 2 brothers I knew, grew up in the same house, same parents, same neighborhood, same schools, same opportunities. One brother ends up wealthy, healthy, happy with a beautiful family and a life most people would envy. The other brother ends up broke, bitter, divorced, blaming the world for all his problems. Same starting point, completely different destinations. What was the difference? Philosophy. One brother developed a philosophy that said, I'm responsible for my own life. If it's going to be, it's up to me. The other brother developed a philosophy that said, life happens to me. I'm a victim of circumstances beyond my control. And here's the fascinating part. Both philosophies proved themselves right. The first brother took responsibility, made small, smart choices every day, and built a fortune over time. The second brother blamed circumstances, made small errors in judgment every day, and proved that the world really is against you, if you believe it is. 2 different philosophies, 2 different lives. The truth is, what we do daily either takes us toward the life we want or away from it. There's no neutral ground. Every single day, you're either building or you're destroying. You're either investing in your future or you're borrowing from it. You're either planting seeds or you're pulling up the ones you planted yesterday. And most of this happens in such small increments that we don't even notice we're doing it. Here's what keeps people trapped. They don't understand the difference between errors in judgment and errors in action. An error in action is when you try something and it doesn't work. You start a business and it fails. You invest in something and lose money. You take a risk and it doesn't pan out. Those are errors in action. And here's the interesting thing. Errors in action teach you something. They give you information. They make you wiser. Successful people make plenty of errors in action. That's how they learn. But an error in judgment, that's different. An error in judgment is deciding that you don't need to read, don't need to learn, don't need to grow. An error in judgment is thinking that you can neglect your health today and somehow be healthy tomorrow. An error in judgment is believing that success is something that happens to people, not something people create through disciplined daily effort. And here's the devastating part. Small errors in judgment, repeated every day, lead to major mistakes and disappointment. Let me give you some examples. It's an error in judgment to think you can eat whatever you want, never exercise, and somehow maintain your health. Nothing happens today. Nothing happens tomorrow. But 5 years from now, 10 years from now, your body presents you with a bill and the interest is devastating. It's an error in judgment to think you can neglect your marriage, take your spouse for granted, stop doing the little things that keep love alive, and expect the relationship to thrive. Nothing dramatic happens today. But 5 years of small neglect That's how good marriages fall apart. It's an error in judgment to think you can spend everything you make, save nothing, invest nothing, and somehow be financially secure later. The first month you spend your whole paycheck, nothing bad happens. You're fine. The first year, still okay. But 10 years of that philosophy, 20 years, now you're trapped, living paycheck to paycheck, with no options, no security, no freedom. And the tragic part is, it didn't have to be that way. If you'd save just 10%, just a small discipline practiced daily, your life would be completely different. Here's what I want you to understand. The difference between success and failure is so small that most people completely miss it. We're not talking about giant differences in talent, intelligence, or luck. We're talking about the difference between reading 30 minutes a day or watching television. The difference between walking 30 minutes or sitting on the couch. The difference between saving 10% or spending it. The difference between saying I love you every day or taking your spouse for granted. These differences seem so tiny in the moment that we convince ourselves they don't matter. But here's the reality. They're the only things that matter. Because success isn't about the big moments. Success is about what you do when nobody's watching, when there's no immediate reward, when the choice seems so small that your brain says, this one time won't make a difference. That's the moment that determines everything. That's when your philosophy is really being tested. I've watched people transform their entire lives by changing just one small discipline. I've seen someone go from broke to wealthy by deciding to save $50 every single week. $50. Some people spend that on coffee, but $50 a week for 10 years with compound interest? That's a fortune. I've seen people go from unhealthy to vibrant by deciding to walk just 20 minutes every morning. 20 minutes. That's less time than most people spend scrolling through social media before they even get out of bed. The question isn't whether small disciplines work. They do. The question is whether you're willing to practice them when they seem insignificant, when nobody's applauding, when the results are invisible. That's where most people fail. Not because they don't know what to do. Everyone knows they should save money, exercise, read, invest in relationships, work on personal growth. Everyone knows. But knowing and doing are two completely different things. Your life changes when your philosophy changes. And your philosophy changes when you accept complete, total, absolute responsibility for where you are and where you're going. Not partial responsibility. Not I'm responsible except for this one thing that's not my fault. Complete responsibility. The economy, that's affecting everyone. But some people are thriving in this exact same economy. Your education, some of the wealthiest people in the world never finished college. Your background, there are millionaires who started with nothing and high school dropouts living in poverty. The variable isn't the circumstance. The variable is you. And once you accept that, once you truly embrace it, everything changes. Because now you're not waiting for life to get easier. You're not waiting for circumstances to improve. You're not waiting for someone to give you permission or opportunity. You're creating your own success through small, disciplined choices that you make every single day, starting right now, starting today. Let me tell you what changed my life more than anything else I ever did. It wasn't a big break. It wasn't meeting the right person or getting lucky with an investment. It was what I did with my first hour every single morning. For years, I stumbled out of bed, grabbed whatever was quick for breakfast, rushed out the door, and started my day already behind, already reactive, already letting the world dictate how my day would go. Then one day, I made a decision. I decided to own my mornings. I started getting up an hour earlier, and I used that hour intentionally. I read, I thought, I planned. I prepared myself mentally and emotionally for the day ahead. Nothing dramatic happened that first morning or that first week. But after 30 days, I noticed something. I was calmer, more focused, better prepared for challenges. After 6 months, my income started to increase. After a year, I was a completely different person. That one small discipline, that 1 hour every morning compounded into a transformation I couldn't have imagined when I started. And here's what I learned. If you want to change your life, you don't need to overhaul everything at once. You need to identify a few key disciplines and practice them daily until they become automatic. Let's talk about money, because this is where most people struggle. Financial discipline sounds complicated, but it's actually beautifully simple. Pay yourself first. Before you pay anyone else, before you pay your bills, before you do anything with your money, take a portion and put it away. Now, some people hear that and they say, Mr. Rohn, I can barely pay my bills. I can't afford to save. And I say, then start with $10. $10. If you can't set aside $10 out of your paycheck, you've got a serious problem. And it's not your income. It's your philosophy about money. I knew a janitor once. Worked in an office building for 35 years. Never made more than minimum wage. Nobody paid attention to him. Nobody thought he was special. He died at 72 years old, and you know what they found? He had over $300,000 in the bank. $300,000. A janitor. How did he do it? Every single week, without fail, he took a small portion of his paycheck and saved it. He didn't wait until he made more money. He didn't wait for the perfect investment opportunity. He just saved week after week, year after year, and let compound interest do its magic. Meanwhile, I've known people who made 10 times what that janitor made, and they died broke. They spent everything. They convinced themselves they'd save later when they made more money. But here's the truth. If you don't develop the discipline to save on a small income, you won't save on a large income either. The amount doesn't matter. The discipline matters. Start with $10, then $15, then $20. The habit you're building is worth more than the money you're saving, at least in the beginning. You're becoming a person who pays themselves first, and that person attracts wealth. Now let's talk about your health, because without your health, nothing else matters. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care how successful you become. If you destroy your body through neglect, you've lost the game. And here's what most people don't understand. Physical discipline isn't really about your body. It's about your mind. It's about proving to yourself that you can make a commitment and keep it, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's uncomfortable, even when nobody's watching. I met a man once who weighed over 300 pounds. He'd tried every diet, every quick fix, every miracle solution. Nothing worked because he was looking for easy. Then one day, he made a simple decision. He decided to walk for 20 minutes every single morning. Not run, not go to the gym, just walk. His friends laughed. 20 minutes? That's not going to do anything. But he didn't care. He walked anyway. Day after day, rain or shine, tired or energized, he walked. After 1 month, he'd lost maybe 3 pounds. Nothing dramatic, but he kept walking. After 6 months, he'd lost 30 pounds. After a year, 60 pounds. After 2 years, he was down to 180 pounds, and he'd transformed his entire life. But here's what really changed. His mind. He'd proven to himself that he could make a commitment and honor it. He'd developed discipline, and that discipline started affecting everything else. He became more disciplined with his eating, more disciplined with his work, more disciplined with his finances. One small discipline, practiced daily, created a ripple effect that transformed everything. You don't need to spend 2 hours in the gym. You don't need some complicated workout program. You need to move your body every single day. Walk, do push-ups, stretch, something, anything. The specific activity matters less than the consistency. Because when you exercise daily, you're not just building muscle or burning calories, you're building character. You're proving that you're the kind of person who does what they say they're going to do. Let's talk about relationships, because this is where I see people make the biggest mistakes. They take the people they love for granted. They assume that their marriage will stay strong without effort, that their children will grow up close to them without intentional time, that their friendships will survive without investment. Then they wake up one day and everyone's gone, emotionally if not physically, and they can't figure out what happened. Here's what happened. Neglect. Small neglect. repeated daily. They stopped saying, I love you every day. Stopped having real conversations. Stopped doing the little things that keep love alive. They got busy. They got tired. They convinced themselves they'd make time later when things slowed down. But things never slow down unless you make them slow down. And relationships don't survive on intentions. They survive on actions. I knew a couple once married for 47 years, and they were still crazy about each other. Everyone wanted to know their secret. What was it? Every single evening for 15 minutes they sat together and talked. No television, no phones, no distractions. Just 15 minutes of genuine conversation about their day, their thoughts, their feelings. 15 minutes. That's all. But they did it every single day for 47 years. That's over 4,000 hours of connection. That's why their marriage thrived while others fell apart. The daily phone call to your parents, the weekly date night with your spouse, the bedtime story with your children, the coffee with a close friend. These seem like such small things that we convince ourselves we can skip them when we're busy. But these small disciplines are what build the relationships that make life worth living. Skip them consistently, and you'll wake up one day surrounded by strangers who happen to share your last name. Now, here's what really excites me: learning. The discipline of feeding your mind every single day with good information, powerful ideas, inspiring stories. 30 minutes of reading every day equals roughly 1 book per week. That's 50 books a year. Do you understand what 50 books a year does to a person? In 5 years, you've read 250 books. You're not the same person anymore. You can't be. Your mind has expanded. Your perspective has shifted. You see opportunities that other people miss because you've trained your mind to look for them. I've studied wealthy people for decades, and you know what they have in common? They read. Not occasionally. Not when they feel like it. They read every single day. They feed their minds the way most people feed their bodies, consistently and intentionally. Meanwhile, the average person hasn't read a book since high school, and they wonder why their income hasn't grown in 20 years. Your income rarely exceeds your personal development. If you want to make more, you have to become more. And becoming more requires learning more. The fascinating thing about these disciplines is they don't work in isolation. They work together. When you start exercising daily, you feel better, so you're more productive at work. When you're reading daily, you learn strategies that improve your finances. When you're connecting with your family daily, you feel more fulfilled, so you have more energy for everything else. These disciplines create a positive spiral. One good habit makes the next one easier. One small discipline strengthens your ability to maintain another. But here's the challenge. Starting is easy. Maintaining is hard. Anyone can walk for 20 minutes today. Anyone can save $10 this week. Anyone can read for 30 minutes tonight. The question is, will you do it tomorrow and the day after that? And next week when you're tired? And next month when you're busy? That's where most people fail. They start strong and fade fast. You need to understand something crucial. These disciplines aren't about perfection. You're going to miss days, you're going to have setbacks, life will interfere. The question isn't whether you'll be perfect. The question is whether you'll keep coming back. Miss a day of exercise? Fine, don't miss 2. Skip your reading one night? Okay. Don't let it become a week. The discipline isn't in never failing. The discipline is in always returning. Success loves consistency more than it loves intensity. The person who exercises moderately every single day will be healthier than the person who kills themselves at the gym for 2 weeks and then quits. The person who saves a little bit every week will be wealthier than the person who saves a lot for 1 month and then spends everything the next. Consistency beats intensity every single time. So pick your disciplines. Not 10, not 20. Pick 3 or 4 that will genuinely transform your life. Financial discipline, physical discipline, learning discipline, relationship discipline. Start small. Start simple. But start today and commit to doing it again tomorrow. String together enough tomorrows and you'll look back 5 years from now at a life you barely recognize. That's the power of small disciplines repeated daily, compounding into massive change. Let me tell you about the Chinese bamboo tree, because this story changed how I think about everything. When you plant a Chinese bamboo seed, you water it and fertilize it. You take care of that ground. And you know what happens the first year? Nothing. Not a sprout, not a shoot, nothing. Second year, you keep watering, keep fertilizing, and still nothing appears above the ground. Third year, same thing, nothing. Fourth year, you're starting to wonder if you've wasted 4 years of your life on a dead seed. Then, in the fifth year, something miraculous happens. That bamboo tree shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. 90 feet in 6 weeks. Now here's the question. Did that tree grow 90 feet in 6 weeks, or did it grow 90 feet in 5 years? The answer is obvious. It grew 90 feet in 5 years. For 4 years, something was happening. Beneath the surface that nobody could see, the roots were developing, spreading, strengthening, preparing to support that incredible growth. Without those 4 years of invisible development, the tree couldn't shoot up 90 feet. It would collapse under its own weight. Your life works exactly the same way. We live in a microwave society, but success requires a crock-pot mentality. We want instant results, quick fixes, overnight success. We try a discipline for 2 weeks, check the mirror, check the bank account, check the scale, and when we don't see dramatic change, we quit. We assume it's not working. But here's the brutal truth. Most people quit right before the breakthrough happens. They water that bamboo seed for 3.5 years and then abandon it 6 months before it would have shot through the ground. I struggled for years before I had any visible success. Years. People didn't see those years. They only saw what happened after. They saw the success, the money, the recognition, and they thought it happened overnight. They had no idea about the hundreds of books I read when I was broke, the thousands of hours I invested in learning, when I had nothing to show for it, the disciplines I maintained when every bit of evidence suggested they weren't working. But something was happening beneath the surface. I was becoming someone different. Someone capable of handling success when it finally arrived. Here's what you need to understand. When you can't see results, you can't measure outcomes. You can only measure effort. Did I walk today? Yes or no? Did I save money this week? Yes or no? Did I read? Did I make the call? Did I show up? That's all you can control. You can't control when the bamboo shoots through the ground. You can only control whether you water it today. I started keeping a journal years ago, not to track results, but to track effort. Every day I'd write down what I did, not what I accomplished, what I did. Did I take the walk? Check. Did I read for 30 minutes? Check. Did I make the prospecting calls? Check. And on days when the bank account looked the same, when the scale hadn't moved, when nothing seemed different, I could look back at that journal and see proof that I was building something. I was watering the bamboo. That journal saved me during the dark times. When doubt whispered that none of this was working, I had evidence that I was doing the work. And here's what I learned. The work is never wasted. Never. Even when you can't see the results, something is happening, roots are growing, strength is developing. You're becoming the person who can handle what's coming. 5 years from now, your life will be dramatically different. The only question is whether it will be better or worse. And that question is being answered right now today by the small disciplines you choose to practice or neglect. You're either watering the bamboo or you're walking away from it. You're either building roots or you're looking for a different seed that might grow faster. But there is no faster seed. There's only the discipline of watering what you've planted and trusting the process even when you can't see what's happening beneath the surface. Your future is being created right now, not tomorrow, not someday, right now. What you do today matters more than you can possibly imagine.